Welcome back to the magical and mystical.
And wonderful.
Yes, and wonderful adventures of Gordon. Episode 10. The journey continues. Now, where were we? Yes, the gang had jailbroken the gang. The other part of the gang. Yes, they were inspecting the final cube, and when they peered in, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. There were 6 robots with beaming red eyes stood, not moving an inch. How very, very, insert favourite word, weird. They were all blocking something which was behind them, as if they were guarding it. The situation gets stranger by the minute. What on earth will happen next? The gang looked at each other and they all nodded in agreement. Jed and Willington took to cracking the cube open, and the moment the hammer and pickaxe made contact with the cube, the robots darted over with frightening lightning-like speed. The robots smashed through the cube and stood across from our tribe of adventurers who were ready to fight. Mildred scooped up little Polly and walked away from the battleground. The others stood and faced the crazy-eyed robots. Nobody moved for a moment. There was an eerie silence, as if the robots were waiting for them to move. Gordon put a foot forward, and the robot across from him did the exact same thing. Ian moved, and the robot opposite him mirrored his movement. It was quite freaky that they were able to predict their movements with minimal delay. Fighting them would require a strategic plan, well thought out, and would probably take some time to figure out.
Guys, we need a plan.
As Gordon was about to finish his sentence, Alfonze dashed forward and began wading into the bots. He outmaneuvered them and gave flurries of punches, up, down, uppercuts, right, cross, left, jab, 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 and some more jab, 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 jabs, while still bobbing and weaving his head. The others looked at each other and nodded. Alfonze had taken the robots by surprise and given the group the opportunity to wade in and smash the heck out of the robot foes. It really was a royal rumble as bits of machine went everywhere. The group were doing well, and they were on to the last bot, which began retreating. They had it on the run but couldn't let it escape, so they darted after it. It was heading in the direction of Polly and Mildred. They looked startled, and it was getting closer and closer when Polly raised the small hatchet Jedi had given her. She was totally shocked at what happened next. And I am a little bit, to be honest. Mildred grabbed the hatchet and threw it towards the bot, and it smashed it in its face, and the robot fell onto the ground. All gasping for breath, the tribe decided to go and inspect the cube to see what the sentinel robots were guarding. Entering the cube, they walked over to where the robots were stood and noticed 6 hand slots on a desk which needed hands placing on them.
I need some air. I'm going outside, and you can come with me, little one.
Mildred grabbed Polly, and they went out of the cube to find a place to sit and wait. The remaining family inspected absolutely everything but found nothing else. There were 6 robots, weren't there?
Yeah, so?
So, there are 6 handprints to fill in. Let's go and get the robot hands and try to put them in the 6 places.
Good idea. Let's have a go.
They all scrambled out of the cube and chopped the hands of the robots off and took them to the handprints inside of the cube. Are we sure we want to do this, guys, as we don't know what the heck is going to happen? It seems a little dodgy to me, like some sort of trap.
Well, what are we going to do? Wait here for King Schwebbie to come and kill us?
I don't know. Well, nobody ever got anywhere by talking. Let's take some action. Let's put one of the hands in and see what happens.
OK, yeah, let's do that.
Wait a minute. Let's think about this, guys.
No love.
They all started pitching in with different theories and didn't know what to do until Weezer stopped them.
I have an idea. Let's fashion a grabber from a few long sticks and from the outside of the cube use the sticks to push the hands into the grooves and see what happens.
Yeah, good plan. It's no good us being in there and spikes shooting out and it kill us.
So the gang began to forage for sticks and began untying their shoelaces, trying to tie the branches together to make a long version of a chopstick. It was quite farcical, but a good idea just to be on the safe side, really, don't you think? They all grabbed the chopstick-type device and lowered the first hand into position, then dropped it, and after some prodding and poking, they managed to place the hand into the groove to which it stuck like a magnet. The moment they did it, the back wall of the cube lit up with a map of the world on it, quite ominous, but not dangerous. So they decided to place the next hand into the slot next to that one. They weren't as precise as the first hand, and it took some fiddle-faddling, but clunk, the hand magnetically stuck into place. This time one part of the map lit up. It was flashing. It looked like it was Antarctica. So, trooping on, they managed to fumble the third hand into its groove, and a red dot began glowing on a certain point in Antarctica. They were on the fourth hand, and finally they had gotten better at their coordination effort of maneuvering the chopsticks. This time, when the hand was placed into the groove, a voice bellowed out from inside the cube.
Surveillance pod initiating return to base sequence.
The group looked at each other with eyebrows crinkled.
It's going to return to the base. Oh, I bet when we put these last hands into place, it's going to launch and return to its point of origin, which I'm guessing is where King Schwebbie is. Let's put the next one in and see.
So they placed the next into its groove, and the cube began rumbling as if someone had turned the engine on. Then the voice spoke again.
Awaiting final authorization.
Looking at each other again, they needed to decide whether or not to get inside the cube. Let's do it. I want a shot at this evil king. With what Polly told me, he needs to be stopped, so I'm in on this one. Alfonze hopped into the cube, awaiting anyone else.
Polly and Mum, you stay here.
Gordon, Weezer, and William joined Alfonze, like there was any doubt that they wouldn't have joined in the opportunity to foil the evil king's plan. Jed and Willington didn't have a clue, but were raring to go and be part of the adventure, so they scrambled in too. They had already manoeuvred the sixth hand near its groove, so it was only a matter of nudging it to make it fall into its place. They all smiled at each other, and Weezer used her her bottom, and smashed the console, which made the hand fall into its slot.
Authorization complete. Return protocol initiated. Take off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The moment the clock reached 1, the cube vibrated extremely fast and then shot up vertical, then stopped once they reached a certain height, and then went horizontal with a surge of energy. The group were being thrown all over the place. Like clothes in a tumble-dryer, they tried to hold on, but it was quite a rough ride. Then the air temperature started to change from mild to cold, and then cold to freezing. They must have been quite close, so shuffled up towards the window to have a look. They couldn't believe the sight they beheld in front of their eyes. They were quickly approaching a huge, it was, I'm trying to think how to describe it. It was a huge igloo dome type thing, you know, like the one Eskimos use, but on a very, very large scale. It was covered in the purest of white snow, just like all the surrounding landscape. Quite picturesque, really, but this wasn't the time to take in picturesque things and take photos, was it really? Anyway, as the cube approached the top of the igloo dome thingy, it opened, and the cube headed for the entrance and slowed down to enter the large igloo. As they descended, they could see inside of the igloo and couldn't believe it. It looked like a military base, and there was no snow or ice anywhere. In fact, it was quite warm inside and the opposite to what they had just seen on the outside. Weird. Yes, my favourite word, weird. They landed with a thud that made them all collapse to the floor. Then, nothing. It was silent. Then a voice bellowed from the console inside of the cube.
Prism pods delivered to storage facility successful, awaiting further instructions.
Then there was silence again. Picking themselves up and dusting their clothes off, the gang gathered together for a quick powwow plan-type meeting to decide what to do next. Now then, we have to have a plan of action. We can't just go in there and take over. We don't have a clue what we're up against, do we?
Alfonze is right. We don't know what Schwebbie's got up his sleeve, so, look, it's all this technology stuff. It hasn't taken him long, to get all of this into place, has it?
He can't have done all of this with just him and that translator man, can he? I don't know, but we have to stop him against all odds. He wants to take over the entire galaxy. He's just insane, and we're the only ones who can do something about it while he's preparing. Preparing for what, Lou? Well, by the looks of it, this techie's prepping to launch an attack on the planet.
Let's get our bearings and stealthily investigate outside.
Yeah. We need to move on before he realizes we've escaped.
So the group exited the cube and looked around. It was a wasteland with discarded cubes and various robot limbs scattered about the place, and a lot of rubbish as well. It looked a little like the family garage after being left for about 30 years, or the Temple of Doom, as I like to call it. There were wires, nuts, bolts, screws, glass, plastic, all sorts of materials. The cube said this was a storage facility, so I'm guessing there's a lot of random things all over the place. The group peered across the landscape of the dome they were in and noticed lots of other cubes stacked around the edges of the dome. They all suddenly witnessed a crane which sprang into action, retrieving the prison cube they had just arrived in and proceeding to stack them with the rest. Then, from who knows where, little robots appeared. The guys didn't have a clue where they had come from. They seemed to materialize from nowhere. Quite creepy, if you ask me. The small robots began cleaning all the debris from the floor and sorting things out. They paid absolutely no attention to Gord and the guys. They were mindless drones, not a threat at all.
Keep your eyes on them. I want to see where they go.
Good idea.
So they watched, and after about 20 minutes of continuous cleaning, the bots stopped and zoomed to various different spots on the floor and then detracted their wheels and laid on the floor. After a brief pause, the ground underneath the bots opened and swallowed them whole.
You can bet this isn't the main base. I say it's underneath our feet. We have to gain access somehow. Over here, Louvre! I have an idea, Louvre!
Oh, and by the way, I call Jeddy Jed and also Jeddy, but Jed for short. I just thought I'd clear that up. So Jed crossed over to one of the cubes and raised the axe which they still had from earlier and hacked one of the cubes. She ferociously chopped away and managed to detach a panel from one of the sides.
Willington Louvre!
Willington crossed over to Jeddy and picked up the panel.
Throw it into the middle Louvre.
So that's what Willington did, and just as Jed had expected, one of the bots emerged from the ground and shot to the discarded panel and picked it up to put it back.
Oh, that's a great idea. We each need to break off some of this tech and throw it onto the floor. Then we can trace the bots and where they came out. We can dig through or get down there somehow. Yes, Louvre.
So they all began breaking off anything they could to throw it to the floor, therefore engaging the bots to clean up so they could locate the entrance holes. After assembling various bits of metal, the group flung pieces everywhere, and various bots emerged from the ground and began to clean up the debris.
Come on, now's our chance.
Each of the adventurers hopped onto the back of one of the bots and were taken to different points. Then the earth swallowed each of the bots with each of the gang into the earth. Oh, I hope they're all right. They were each lowered down like they were going down in an elevator as they stood on top of the cleaning bots. Then they stopped, and a door swooshed open as the bots they were riding started to walk forward into a large room that had a sign above the door which displayed multiple languages, including English.
Bot storage room.
As the bots neared the farthest wall, the group each leapt off. Huddling around, they began debating what to do next. Right, we have to find this King Schwebbie and stop him before any of this tech stuff gets used to take over the earth.
We have to be careful. Yes, Louvre. So what's next, Louvre? Well, I reckon we get out of this room and try to navigate and find the king. As far as we know, it's just him and that translator henchman guy. They're like the masterminds behind all of this operation.
It's not going to be easy, though, is it? None of this has been easy so far. We're probably going to run into some trouble.
Just make sure you all keep your wits about you, and we need to be as stealthy as possible, so no loud noises, proper ninja style. First port of call is to get out of here and get our bearings, maybe find a map or something. They all nodded and went to the door, which swooshed open as they approached. It was eerily silent in the corridor outside, and the light was very clinically bright. The whole place had wires and computer chips all over it, as if it hadn't been finished yet. They all decided to advance down the left corridor, and as they were walking, Jed noticed something on the walls, something very tiny walking along the wires. They looked like ants.
Look, Louvres!
They all paused and took a look. There were lots of ant-sized robotic creatures walking on the wires. Then various creatures or machines or these ant things would stop and begin fixing the wires. They were the ones building this place. They didn't take notice of the gang and carried on with their duties.
He has some really advanced technology, but it looks like this underground bunker thing isn't finished and they're trying to finish it fast.
We may be just in time to take the advantage and use the element of surprise. Come on, let's carry on.
Venturing further into the labyrinth, they came across a double door and decided to inspect the room. So Gord, Ian and Alfonze went to one side of the door and Jed and Willington to the other and grabbed the seam in the middle and they heaved it open. There was no sound from the room as Gord cautiously poked his head around the corner. The coast was clear, so they all went into the room. The lights powered on slowly as they entered the room to reveal a humongous tank containing insects of all kinds.
This must be what they fed the town people when we were in the land of the Quilt.
Yeah, but why are they here?
He may eat them, who knows, or he may still want everyone else to eat them. Yuck.
Let's venture on and see if we can uncover something a bit more useful than this.
Dismissing the creepy crawlies, they went further into the labyrinth. They each walked with an air of caution as they didn't know what they would find next. Then, all of a sudden, they heard the familiar to Iamwisa and Gord, voice of King Schwebbie and the translator. They followed the sound of the voices and walked onto a balcony where they all saw the king and the translator below. They all huddled around together and made sure they weren't seen or heard so they could listen in on the conversation.
Yes, my lord, all is going to plan. The facility is being created by the nanobot technology that I brought in case we needed to switch to plan B, which obviously we did because we're on plan B, my lord.
Schwebbie, I want you now in the shoes.
Oh, yes, my lord, the bugs are being prepared and farmed as we speak so we can grind them up to put them into the human food and make the humans weaker, so they will need your great leadership to help them survive, and then we can mine all of the Earth's resources and choose a planet in the solar system to build a new world in your image. Oh, great King Schwebbie.
Oh, yes, so I see pirating capture.
Oh, yes, my lord, we are on schedule, and the weapons facility, along with the prisons facility, is being constructed to enforce your laws. Earth will bow to you, O great king, and all shall cower or be punished and imprisoned so we can harvest their life force.
The translator walked over to a control panel and pushed a button which revealed a tank full of bugs of all kinds. They were wriggling and squirming. It was disgusting. Then the translator turned and nodded to the king, who smiled. After the brief glance, the translator's head shot to the balcony where Gord and the gang were, and he began speaking.
Gordon and family, we know you are here and have known of your presence this whole time. Now reveal yourself and bow to the king. Do you think we were that stupid as to let you simply walk in here and take over our operation? You fools, you and your family will have a front row seat to the takeover and destruction of this stupid planet after you made so many problems for us before. We weren't going to let you foil our plans again, you stupid earthlings.
The hairs on their necks and arms stood on ends. Then Schwebbie gave a sadistic smile and vanished.
My king is safe. He is very intelligent and knew you would fall into his trap.
All of a sudden, from behind the gang, robots appeared from within the walls. So, without a second thought, they all shot off into different directions with a bot chasing each of them. The translator simply smiled and chuckled to himself as he walked through a doorway to the right and vanished himself. It was looking like a scene from Scooby-Doo, where they run through one door and appear out of the other. The adrenaline was surging through their veins and made their senses heightened as they fled as fast as they could, trying to avoid the pursuing robots and gain some sort of advantage. Oh, our Gordy was the first to be caught, and he was grabbed with a grip like a vice which crushed his arm. The more he tried to struggle, the tighter the bot gripped, so he made the conscious decision to stop struggling, and so the grip loosened. Our Ian was next, followed by Weezer, Jedi, and Willington. Alfonze was still evading being caught, but after about 30 minutes and 5 robots, he was caught too. The robots then escorted them back to the balcony room, where there were now chairs spaced evenly apart for each of the gang. They were each shoved into the chairs, and immediately when their rumps or bottoms hit the seats, shackles shot over their wrists and ankles so they couldn't escape. It's not looking good for our awesome adventurers, is it? Oh, the poor guys. Then the robots went away, leaving the gang in pure silence.
What are we going to do?
I don't know. I can't get free.
Oh no, love, what are we going to do, Loops? How could we let ourselves get into a trap like this?
Calm down now. We need to think. How are we going to get free?
They all sat looking very perplexed. You could see the cogs going round in their little brains. Oh, they were working overtime to try and come up with a solution to get out.
Anybody any ideas?
The group were silent and couldn't think of anything to do or say. It was very depressing and frustrating. Oh, the situation seemed like they were doomed. Oh, it's not fair. They always come up with something. Come on, guys, you can do it. I believe in you.
Sorry, I need to think positive. Take a breath. Come on, guys, you can do this. Refocus and get out of there.
Okay, back to the story. I'm very sorry. I do get quite involved in this. Oh, wait a minute. I'll just give myself a quick slap. There we go. Back into the story. After a moment of silence, a thin slit opened in the roof, and a projection screen lowered itself in front of the gang. Each of them tilted their heads in curiosity and wondered what on earth was happening. A projector from behind them began to project a film onto the screen in front of them. It was footage of Schwebbie being drawn through the streets on a hovering platform. Then a voice began narrating.
Dear citizens of Earth, I am here to save you and your planet. My name is King Schwebbie. I am offering you the greatest and most sustainable future. Together we can advance into a brighter, warmer tomorrow. With the imminent threat of war looming, I offer my services to protect and save the lives of Earth. Allow me to use my advanced technology to ward off the alien foes so we can restore balance and peace. Oh, and safety.
The clip kept playing over and 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 over. Oh, sorry. I was like a broken record. Yes, it was like a broken record. It was Yawn City. The gang had been in their seats for half an hour listening to this tripe of a speech when all of a sudden the lights went out and the video stopped. They were plunged into pure darkness and couldn't see a thing. For a moment they wondered if this was part of the torture they were being exposed to, and then the lights powered on, but the video had stopped. A door whooshed open, and a hulking, huge figure stepped into the room. He had purple skin with blue, veiny arms, and his face was, well, all I can describe it or compare it to was it looked like a platypus. But his physique was like the Roman gladiators, you know, the ones you see in Rome, or in the history books. There was a slight pause, then the purple man walked over to the gang, and when he reached them, the doors of the room clicked. They all guessed they were locked in. The mystery man stared hard at the adventurers, and his face, it looked as though he was beginning to smile. It was quite disgusting, to be honest. His bizarre, sadistic, weird gaze lasted for what seemed like forever, and then he turned to Alfonze.
I do not like to speak your native tongue, as it offends my mouth.
Alfonze didn't take his eyes off of the mystery man.
I have been watching you, and the research orb you destroyed at your home captured the footage of you and your champion belts. You are Earth's champion. I am the king's son. He created me from his DNA and improved me physically so I could be his general and toughest subject. All challengers I have faced have been crushed, and our enemies I have destroyed with a single blow. My father, King Schwebbie, does not know I have come to find you.
Alfonze tilted his head and wondered why he wanted to find him, and then the question was answered.
From what I have seen, you seem to be a mighty opponent and a champion, so I want to challenge you to a fight and prove that my race are stronger. I will not use weapons. I will release you from your chair, and we will fight. I will kill you with a single blow, you puny human.
Alfonze's eyebrows crinkled, and his blue eyes glinted as he relished a challenge and saw this as an opportunity to free the gang. The mystery man, King Schwebbie's son, went to a control panel on the wall and pushed a button that released Alfonze's cuffs. Alfonze stood and rubbed his wrists. King Schwebbie's son's eyes widened and his ears pricked up as Alfonze said, "Come on then, I haven't got all day." This enraged King Schwebbie's son, and he flew across the room, his muscles bulging and full, ready to deal out some serious punishment to Alfonze. As the first fist travelled towards Alfonze's head, he didn't move, and the gang thought he was surely done for. Just as the fist was about to land on Alfonze's face, all the gang closed their eyes so tight and waited to hear the impact of the blow. They all opened their tightly clenched eyes and peered through, and they couldn't believe what they saw. Schwebbie's son was stood, his arm fully stretched as if he had just thrown a punch. And where was Alfonze? He was stood slightly to one side, smiling. He had dodged the punch with some pretty precise timing and stood there smiling. Oh, the cheeky little... King Schwebbie's son's face was quite a picture. He looked totally shocked and astonished that a mere human could move so fast. "You silly sod, fighting isn't about power. Oh, I can dodge shots like that all day. I thought you said you were a champion or something. What a champion." King Schwebbie's son began his second attack, and this time the rage seemed to make him slightly quicker, but not quick enough to outmaneuver our good old Alfonze. This time Schwebbie's son threw flurries of punches which were all ineffective, and Alfonze bobbed and weaved, evading every single blow. This only made Schwebbie's son madder and madder. He obviously hadn't expected Alfonze to dodge his attacks. Slipping, sliding, ducking, diving, bobbing, weaving, Alfonze smiled as the sinister purple Schwebbie son tried his best, but to no avail. Then Alfonze shocked everyone and leaped back and stood tall, chest high, and baited Schwebbie's son. "Okay, I've demonstrated that I'm faster than you, so I'm going to give you a chance, lad. I'll stand here and I'll let you punch me just once." Schwebbie's son couldn't believe the sheer cheek of Alfonze, but he wasn't going to let this opportunity pass by, so he advanced and threw a power punch towards Alfonze. Alfonze, in fact, did move his head slightly, and the fist flew, smashing a control panel behind him on the wall, to which the shackles of the gang's chairs were released. Schwebbie's son looked like he could explode while Alfonze laughed. He laughed so hard and forgot himself, and the purple man took this as his golden opportunity to teach Alfonze a lesson. Before anyone could say anything, the purple man threw a devastating punch at Alfonze, and this time it connected with Alfonze's jaw. The gang gasped in horror as Schwebbie's son had broken Alfonze's jaw. It was just dangling down from his face.
Ah, you see, I am the victor, you foolish human. None shall succeed in beating me, for I am Quark, son of the legendary Schwebbie.
To everyone's amazement, Alfonze stood tall and gripped his jaw with both hands and snapped it back into place. It slotted in perfectly. Sorry about that, gang. I had to let him think he had a chance at winning. Oh, and by the way, my jaw dislocating, it wasn't at all from his punch. It was an accident I had back in a car crash back in, I think it was 2006. Don't panic, I'm fine. Alfonze wiggled his jaw to loosen it up, and the gang sighed in sweet relief. Schwebbie's son's jaw was open in disbelief. He couldn't believe a mere human could take a blow like that and not be sent into the other world, or at least to his knees. Alfonze began turning his head, and it made a wonderful cracking noise, and then he twisted around, and it sounded as though someone was making popcorn somewhere, but it was all the little cracks and cricks in his back. Now that we've finished the warm-up, it's my turn. It's time for the main event. King Schwebbie's son wasn't going to back down, and neither was Alfonze. They both stood in a cowboy-style standoff, each ready to make a move. Alfonze smiled and started using some pretty fancy footwork, hopping from one foot to the other as he advanced towards his opponent. The moment Schwebbie's son got into striking distance, he began throwing barrages of punches at Alfonze, to which Alfonze simply dodged, and it enraged Schwebbie's son further. Then the counterattack started. Alfonze began to make Schwebbie's son miss and make him pay. Alfonze dodged and then attacked with uppercuts, body shots, and jabs, his favourite. Now, if Schwebbie's son wasn't so purple, you would have probably seen the bruises that were forming as he was taking a lot of punishment off Alfonze. Ian whispered to Gordon.
Watch Dad's feet. If you see them plant, he's going to use his power punch. Just watch.
Just as Ian said, Alfonze stopped dancing, planted his feet, and generated energy all the way up his body to throw the knockout blow. The punch nearly went all the way through King Schwebbie's son's head, and it's a wonder it didn't pop off of his body. King Schwebbie's son fell to the ground with an almighty thud. He was out cold. That's the problem with this so-called prince. He's used to getting his own way. Well, maybe now we might have learnt a lesson. I don't want to fight, but when the time calls for it, you've got to, haven't you?
Well done, Dad.
Thanks, Alfonze.
Well done, Dad Louv. Thanks, Alfonze.
The group each fist-bumped one another in victory. Willington and Ian grabbed the Purple Prince and threw him into one of the chairs they had been sat in. Alfonze went over to one of the walls and ragged out some cables and tied the Purple Prince to the chair. Right, let's venture on and find Schwebbie and end this madness before it's too late. They decided to keep moving forward, and so all proceeded to a double door in front of them. It whooshed open, revealing yet another corridor. Keeping their wits about them, they went on, curiously and cautiously. After what seemed to be the longest corridor recorded in history or on the planet, they reached a room that stated one word: control. Readying themselves, they managed to pry open the door to reveal a room that had a huge desk and a computer console on it. There was nobody in the room, so they could afford to relax for a little while and gain their bearings. Gordon walked over to the computer and began inspecting it. Jed decided to stand guard, watching the corridor while the gang gathered around the computer. Everyone looked extremely puzzled and couldn't quite fathom out what to do. Then, for the first time in our tale, Willington actually spoke without Jed stopping him. Ooh, are you ready?
If you would all please kindly stand aside, I will assist the team in operating this device so we may further expose the evil king's plan and stop this evil raining down on the earth.
Willington began pushing various keys on the console and the screen sprang to life. He then withdrew his phone from his pocket and attached a wire from the console to his phone.
I actually don't believe this.
What? What is it?
They were all eager to have a look and see what Willington was so concerned about.
I have managed to hack into the system, but won't go undiscovered for long. You won't believe it.
What?
What? No.
What?
What?
They all exclaimed.
Well, it seems there is more to the plot than meets the eye. The king is a self-contained reproductive organism, and the bugs we came across in the other room were, in fact, parts of the king, or should I say, his children. The said bugs are fed to the masses, and the said bugs will take over their human hosts, and so the people become part of the king, so he can control and rule them from the inside out. Apparently, the king used to be more of an insect himself, like the other bugs, but he chose to create a body to host the bug, which is him. It is quite confusing. So, what we see as Schwebbie houses a bug, which is the king. Therefore, we have to break the shell to destroy the king, which won't be a small feat. Ugh, that's enough, Lou.
Jed put her finger onto Willington's lips, and he went back to being his quiet, usual, jolly self. Well, they all now knew the evil king's plan and were all fired up to save the world. Thank you for listening, my fellow adventurers. Please like, share, subscribe, but most importantly, enjoy, you beautiful people.